Hi, my name is Ricky Scruggs, ex-baseball player and founder of Centerfield Baseball Academy. Just want to talk a little bit about the stride and some of the hip action in the swing. One of the problems that has been taught to kids through good intention is the fact that they're trying to open their hips. What happens with the idea being put in a kid's head from a young age to open the hips is that we end up taking this hip backwards because for some reason we feel like the spine is the rotation point. Naturally you would think that, but in hitting it actually works out a little bit differently. When I go to rotate and I go to open the hips, you'll notice we have something called negative rotation. You can spot this anytime by watching your young player or your hitter and seeing if their heel, if it starts here and throughout the swing it actually kicks backwards. You've got yourself someone who's opening up the front side, opening up their hips, rather than closing their hips. The way we create force in anything, torque, whether it's a truck or whether it's a baseball player, a pitcher or a hitter, is to have the same force working on an object in two different directions, right? So we want to have the front side is actually not designed in the swing to open up because that would just be weak. So that's why we see a lot of kids who look like they have good swings. Everything looks great, but when it comes off the bat, there's no oomph, there's no bat speed. And it actually creates, when I open up watch when I open my front side, my hands immediately go that way. And what goes that way has to go that way. So that I end up, no matter how short I try to be to the ball, I'm casting and then I'm going to have a quick action out of there. And actually, instead of punching the ball straight on, I'm going to end up slapping it across. And that's when you see the slices and you see a lack of power. Now, to get it right, we want the front side to actually become the hinge point, to become the gate. So when I get my stride and I come here, this stops and the back side and the front side begin to collide into one another. The front side's fighting to stay closed, back side's colliding into one another. And you notice what it does with my hands? It creates a nice path and what we get is torque. And so the back side's pushing, 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 and we're going to actually close this hip onto the ball. And look what happens to my hands. They're launched into a position where now I haven't made a decision to swing, but I could swing or I could not swing and my hands are in position to hit. So one thing that needs to happen to do this is something called the pelvic load. Even a pitcher, same thing. They can look good, but nothing's happening. So a good drill for the stride is to be with your feet wide, just like a regular athletic stance that you hear from people. And just see if, you put your hand here, and see if that hitter can just lift this leg without drifting back here and relieving that pressure. Or you'll see when you try this drill, a kid's foot will go. It'll jump back because they're not used to having that pressure on this hip flexor. So if I've trained myself to be able to do this, right? And it doesn't look like a lot's going on here, but this is loaded, which is going to help create the proper positive move to the ball. And as long as I don't throw my hips out, I'm in good shape. So what we want to do is tell a kid, hey, I got a set of eyes on my hips, a set of eyes on my shoulders, and my real set of eyes, and all three are going to try to fight to stay on the ball, and then boom, right there. And if you see a little collapse over the plate, you know you're doing it right there too. So the drill is to lift the leg until you get fatigued, and just try to keep this still. And they're going to start to get tired, and that's right. Same thing with pitching. If I get here, boom. I do not want to be here and just be pretty with the pretty leg because there's nothing happening there. I want to get a good hip load and drive down. All right, and that's basically your hip action and hitting.